advert, Sue, and say ask us anything, because I rarely do these on my own. I've normally got Mitzi, my dog, and a special guest. And today in the hot seat we have Sue Hedley, who I work with at the IAPCNM. Sue is our lead copywriter and an accredited coach that we're trying to persuade to upgrade to senior when she's got time, because she's more
Yes,
than got the hours.
yes,
How are you
yes.
today, Sue?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice to be here with you. And yes, it's always nice to chat about what helps us feel more confident and run our business and be better coaches. And that's
Mm.
what it's all about.
Definitely. And I can see you've added is that your book or your course to your Zoom background?
Um, it's an ebook that it's a
Mhm.
book. It's an ebook
Yeah.
that I use as a sort of a lead magnet, as we call it,
Yes.
and give it away to clients and things. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Believe in yourself. Yep, very good.
Mm.
Because I always thought of you as the confidence coach. So have you done a bit of transitioning and rebranding?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I do call my business confidence first coaching because I think of confidence as the building blocks for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but actually, what's the building block for confidence is kind of is trust, is self-trust, because our
Mm-hmm.
confidence is a little bit external. It relies on external things happening and the right things happening. Whereas if we've got that sort of self-belief, we
Yeah,
can ride through those moments when things don't pan out as we'd hoped for whatever
exactly.
reason. So it's all fluid in my mind anyway.
Yeah. I remember somebody describing it as a cake. If you've got a cake, confidence is one of the ingredients.
Mm,
But the heart of it is self-esteem, which is obviously linked to belief. So you're absolutely right. They're all interlinked.
yeah.
Anyway, I should just set the scene for, as I say, anybody who's just tuned in and thought, what are these two lovely coaches talking about? Well, we have a chat once a month and ask questions around what do people look for from a coach? How do they find a coach? So we're kind of asking ourselves questions that lead to the answers that we think you'll be thinking of anyway. So typically, these calls are of interest to people who are thinking about hiring or working with a professional coach or mentor and wanting to know what is the due diligence that I should do before I hire somebody. Or maybe you're a coach and you, like me, you were coaching for a long time before you came across accreditation. What is this that people are talking about? How is it going to impact your business? Why is it necessary? Is it even necessary? Let's face it, it's voluntary. We're in an unregulated market. Insurance, contracting, all those differentiators that the public are looking for. Maybe you're a training provider and you want to attract more international paying students. People are always looking at league tables when it's a university course and so on and comparing. So we'll be having discussions all around that, and just, there's no planning. We just see what comes out of it. So I love to start these conversations, Sue, if I may, by just asking you what fills your heart with joy. And I think I know the answer to this because I've worked with you for long enough, but for the benefit of
Yeah.
everybody else, what fills
Mm.
your heart with joy outside of coaching?
Uh, what fills my heart with joy that is obviously family, always family. I've got three amazing sons and I've been married coming up this year for 43 years, so a lovely husband as
Wow.
well. And the time as you're guessing, the time I spend with horses.
Yeah.
When I get to be outside, I live in North Wales. It's kind of wet quite a lot, but it's absolutely beautiful. So
Mm.
it's just, yeah, I'm very contented with all those elements of my life. And I do love coaching as well, of course. But as you say, you were thinking about outside of work.
Yeah. And you live in a beautiful part of the world, don't you?
Mm. Oh, it's amazing. I live in North Wales. So, yeah, mountains, lakes, seaside. We've kind of got it all. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just beautiful. So, mm.
All except the weather.
Well, we do get a lot of rain, I have to be honest. But
Yeah.
we've had some nice sunny days this week, and you just enjoy what life gives you. Even in the rain, it still looks beautiful and amazing. We can light the log fire and be cozy. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I know when I climbed Mount Snowdon, got to the top, couldn't see a thing because of
Oh,
the mist. And everyone was
oh,
complaining. And it just reminded me of there is no bad weather. It's just the wrong outfits and the wrong attitude. But
absolutely.
it was still a really, really good day out.
Yes, absolutely. Still a good sense of achievement to get to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm
Especially
sure
as
the rescue,
there's a train that runs alongside for all the people who can't walk it for themselves.
absolutely.
That makes you when you realise, oh, it is quite. But we met some people who were doing the three peaks.
Yes,
So
yeah.
Snowdon, Ben Nevis. What's the third one that they do? I can't remember.
Is it Scarfell in the Lake District? So
It
yeah,
might
in the
be,
Lake
yeah.
District, I think. I'm
And I
sure it
think they
is.
give
Yeah.
themselves 48 hours or something to race up all three.
I think it's
It's a
less than
regular
that,
thing.
actually. I think
Yeah.
it's less than that. I think it's maybe 24 or 36 hours because two of my boys are doing it in May, actually. So,
Oh,
yeah, so they
okay.
were talking about it recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me mountains and give me sea, and I'm happy. And I think
Oh, mm,
it's interesting. I ask everybody that I have conversations with, outside of work, what do you
mm,
do that makes you content and fills your heart with joy? 9 times out of 10, we say nature, but
yes.
do we go out there? No.
Mm,
We're
mm,
busy, we're domesticated, we're in the office, we've got chores to do, we're going to the shops. We don't get out as
mm,
much as we would like to. What do you think the
absolutely.
barrier is?
Oh, good question. Because I face that myself. I sit here
Yeah, I
working,
do.
and I keep thinking, it's time I went out for a bit. I thought I'll just do something else. Um,
Yeah.
I suspect that what really is at play is our own limiting thoughts. I battle all day, not all day, but I battle regularly with the
Uh-huh.
thought that I'm not working hard enough. If I don't work hard enough, it's all going to come crashing down, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's the
So
plight of the solopreneur, isn't it? If we don't
absolutely.
work, nobody else is.
No, that's right. And it really has the opportunity to feed into
Mm,
our own sort of negative thoughts, basically.
mm.
And of course, we know that that's not the truth. Whatever the reason is, we know it's not the truth. Um,
Yes.
if we go out and have a break and get out into nature, we're going to come back all fired up and
Mm,
it's all going to be much improved.
mm. I've actually had a painting commissioned by a lovely local artist. Uh, and it took him quite some time because it's quite a big painting. But he did a small one, which is kind of a meter. That's the small
Mm,
one, a meter
right.
long, as a template to show me. I love the template better than the real thing. So I've got the template on my wall. I've just had it framed and it's in my office so that it catches my eye. Get out of the office, get on that broad walk and walk the sea because it's the
Oh,
sea. Gibraltar's up to the right. We've got the Roman column. It's absolutely beautiful, but it still
mm,
you work because you think I've got to get it done. I've got to get it done. And there's this
yeah.
mentality of we're indispensable,
Mm,
not indispensable rather. We've got to
yeah.
do it,
Yeah.
but also there's guilt.
Yes.
And I'm sure with your clients, you deal with guilt issues a
Mm,
lot
mm,
in the field. Tell us a
absolutely.
little bit more about the type of woman that you support or
The
typical woman.
time, yeah, typically I'm working with women in their 40s and 50s. So
Mm,
I call it sort of the midlife phase. And they're women who, and basically we get to that point in our lives and it's really a time of reevaluation. We've got through the 20s and our 30s and we've kind of been discovering ourselves, what makes all those things, what makes us tick, maybe building a relationship, maybe having a family, and all the different roles kind of pile in. So when we get to that point of realization, whether it's 40s or 50s, it's sort of like, hang on a minute, I'm doing all these things, but is it making me happy?
mm,
And with that comes the guilt. Maybe I've got a great family, I've got a loving partner, I've got a nice house and all the things that we value, but yet something's still missing. And I think that
Mm.
the guilt really tumbles in at that point. It's like, I ought to
Mm.
be grateful. It ought to, all the oughts and the shoulds, as my lovely sister-in-law says, the hardening of the oughtaries. So
Yeah.
it's like when you feel like you ought to be satisfied, but you're not. So yeah,
Yes.
that's the people I'm dealing with. It often shows up as stress, it shows up as anxiety, as overwhelm, but kind of that's what's kind of underneath,
Mm.
all the tangles of different emotions and different things going on.
Mm. That's interesting what you said about, climbing the greasy pole, raising a family, doing all the right things that we were expected to do, and then realizing we're not happy.
Mm, mm,
Which leads me on to the meditation that we had a couple of hours ago, the midweek meditation
mm.
that I guide everyone through, hosted by the IAPCNM, but it's available to everybody who would like to get off the hamster wheel. We discussed being content as a
Mm.
more stable. How did that sit with you, I wonder? Bearing in mind you hear I'm not happy quite a lot from your
Yes.
clients.
Yeah. Um, it was brilliant. It was absolutely lovely. And it
Okay.
took me back to a client session I had a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about, that she didn't experience joy.
Mm.
Um, she experienced calm and success, but she said she'd never experienced joy,
Mm.
um, which was quite an emotional thing for me to hear as a coach. And of course, now I want to, when we have our next session, if it's appropriate, to raise the topic of, exactly that, the difference between maybe joy and contentment.
Mhm.
I loved that you raised that topic. It was it was a real light bulb moment, I felt. you
Okay,
know
good,
Contentment
good.
being something that we feel, and I know that we feel happiness, but it, as you
Mhm.
said, I think you said in the session, it's always mixed up with external things, whereas
Mhm.
contentment is very much on the inside.
Mhm. Yeah. I've been thinking about joy versus contentment versus happiness versus fun for quite a long time. What are the definitions of them? And it certainly, well, probably all of them, but certainly fun. What I found as fun as a 20-year-old being thrown around on a Ferris wheel is an absolute abhorrent to me as a 60-year-old who suffers
Mm.
with vertigo. That's one of the things, thanks COVID, it just keeps on giving. I never had it before that. Um, so our definitions change. But what I
Yes.
realized from my experiences, contentment is stable. It
Yes.
didn't matter
Yeah.
what generation I was in, what decade. And this is how I describe it. I've always been content within myself. So
Right.
even though there's chaos around
Mm.
me, whether it's struggles in my relationship, struggles at work, in myself, and I
Mm.
think I learnt this as a boarding school kiddie to be
Ah,
self-reliant. And I
right.
can only think that that's where it comes from. So I think I've always been content. I haven't always been happy or
Mm.
joyful or experiencing
Mm.
fun, but I think because I like myself, because I'm comfortable in my own skin,
Yeah.
I think I've always been content with myself. So that's
Mm.
how I'm kind of getting to grips with it
Yes.
and
Yeah.
dealing with it with my clients, my coaching clients, who often say, as you said, they've got their ladder up against the wrong wall. After doing all of this work, they say, is
Mm.
this it?
Yeah.
Is this what
Yeah.
my struggle's been about? Why am I not happy? And as I said in the meditation today, the Dalai Lama says we've never had so much yet been so unhappy. It's because
Yes.
we're measuring life in the wrong way.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think for a lot of people, if you like, and I know with my clients, if you ask them what's that moment when everything felt aligned and they felt calm, at peace, or whatever the words are in the moment, and it's often when they're quiet. It's not about when they've kind of just reached out and bought a new thing or something like that. It is very much nature, quiet, calm, time to sort
Yeah.
of be still. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I think about this a lot because I walk Mitzi, the dog, um, or the beast, the princess. She gets lots of different names depending on what I'm thinking. But
The
we
scoundrel today.
yeah, the scoundrel today, the escape artist.
Yes.
Um, I sit on a bench and I look at Gibraltar and I look at the Atlas
Oh,
Mountains and I can see North Africa. At the shortest part, it's 15 kilometers away,
wow.
across the sea.
Wow.
At the most, it's 25, I think. And I sit there and I think, I could sit here all day. That to
Mm,
me is contentment. And so I'm
yes.
looking at my picture thinking, why am I
Amazing.
still sat in the office doing yet another email because this needs doing, etc. So as practitioners, we need to walk the walk
Mm,
and we need to
yeah,
look after ourselves in order to be able to show up and hold space for our clients. So
absolutely.
if we can understand what stops us, that makes us think, right, the weeding's more important, the dishes are more important, the ironing's more important than getting out on the horse or going out to the beach. If we
Mm,
could crack that, then we would be in a better place to help our clients, which is why
yeah.
I think some of our master classes are so cool in
Mm,
understanding behavioral change, neuroscience. Motivation is not enough. It's like a vitamin C tablet. You have to take it every day. The body doesn't produce it on its own. It's a really fascinating subject. And I think it's the master coaches who are appreciating this deeper dive into how the brain works. Whereas I think
mm,
the newbie coaches, it's just too highbrow for them. Depending on
mm,
their background, unless they've got a medical background, but they're still grappling with some of the basics. But with our experience, Sue, in coaching over the decades and the hours we've accumulated, I think we're in a position to be a lot more helpful to the clients who are struggling with these issues.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
And I think it's something that you brought up um in your meditation group before about sometimes as like people tend to think it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time, but actually
mm,
small snatches, you know,
mm,
taking 5 or 10 minutes every hour to
mm,
just do some breathing, notice your bum on the seat or look out the window and just look at your painting or something,
mm.
just to be quiet for a bit. That is as powerful as a major effort to get out and walk up Snowdon or something. It's
Yes.
little and
Yeah.
often it doesn't
Yeah.
actually take a lot of time
Hmm.
always.
And that's exactly how we get our clients to break down their big goal, isn't it? It's like, I
Mm,
want to run a marathon or I want to change my job or whatever. It's let's do the baby steps.
yeah.
And that reduces the feeling of guilt, overwhelm, stress, anxiety,
Mm,
because they are making incremental changes.
yeah,
As I said, if we don't do anything, nothing changes. And, we are today what we were doing 5 years ago. So if we're
absolutely.
making little changes, it's accumulative. And in 5 years'
Mm.
time, we'll be in a very different place if that's what we want to achieve.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah. Absolutely.
contentment is all around. It doesn't matter where you are in 5 years' time. You're gonna be as content then as you are now.
Absolutely. And I'm drawn back to remembering many years ago, I knew somebody quite well, and and a bit of a sad story, but he was ill with AIDS at the time,
Mm,
and I remember talking to him and actually him saying, I am ill, but I can also be healthy. Within
yeah.
the context of what's going on in my body, I'm healthy at the moment and
Yes.
sort of responding to that. And it's a little bit the same, with what we're talking about. We can still
Yeah.
be a little bit stressed. We can still be wanting things to change, but finding the contentment in what
Mhm.
we've got now as well.
Mm, yeah. So what was the catalyst for you making a big life change then, Sue? Because I know you were from an IT background and now
Mm.
you've come to coaching, which is all about the conversation. So what's your journey, please?
Um, I worked on the global IT projects well, for about 18 years.
Mm.
And part of that was always coaching in a sort of
Ah,
a non-certified way, but I had teams of
yeah.
people in India, all across the globe. So when you're trying to get them to work together and all those sorts of things. Different cultures, some cultures don't like to speak up, and they all need to do that in an IT team environment because we have to deliver something and everybody's opinion matters. So there was always an element of coaching and mentoring involved in that. What changed it for me was a couple of stressful projects where you typically have about 5 or 6 key roles in a project: the development manager, the this manager, the that manager. I was the QA manager, the quality manager on one of them, and they're important roles. And basically, 3 of those roles were not filled. So my kind of limiting self beliefs all kicked in, results of traumatic childhood and all that kind of stuff. So I took it all on board, and basically it was just extreme stress. It nearly broke me. But my sort of modus operandi was, I will just power through this. I will work harder, I will work faster, I will work longer, and eventually that I couldn't do that anymore. So I went out and I got some counseling, and I found out about coaching, and that was
Mhm.
what changed it for me, was just thinking, I love the IT work, but I don't want to be back in that space anymore.
Mm.
I don't I It was just, if anybody out there is wondering what their niche is, think about that one moment. For me, it was sitting there thinking, I don't want anybody else to be sitting at their desk feeling like I was feeling,
Mhm.
if I can be helping them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it was that moment, really. So
Mhm.
what form that help takes, and how I do that's been a journey, but that's
Mhm.
fundamentally. So yeah, it was just a time for
Mhm.
something else. And by then I was in my sort of, I suppose I was about 52, 53. So it was quite late to make a whole career change. But yeah, it was amazing. And I trained with a lovely Curly Martin, who's sort of now retired. She
Yes.
was fabulous.
Yeah.
Um,
She's got a great
so
legacy.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you want that coach, don't you, who says that one
Mhm.
thing to you,
Mm.
that
And what a
just
lovely, humble lady. We tried to throw her a retirement party and she wouldn't have it.
really, oh,
Yeah.
bless her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my journey. It was just moving away from exactly what I'm helping,
Mhm.
my lovely ladies with.
Yeah.
Um,
Hence your sense of compassion in wanting to support people because, as you say, you've been sat there, your adrenals are shot, you're fatigued, you've got brain fog, you don't feel well. There's no balloon, there's no air in your balloon, to quote Winnie the Pooh. Um,
yes, that's
uh,
a good quote.
and you blame yourself. You just don't understand why
Yeah.
you feel like this.
No,
Terrible.
absolutely. And the
You're
more you
burnt
feel like
out.
that, the worse your confidence gets. And then you're completely locked in this
Mhm.
situation where
Mhm.
you can't change it,
Mm.
because everything's just caved in on you. And that's where the self-trust comes in. The first thing I help my clients to do is to rebuild that self-trust, so they start to tune in again and realize
Mhm.
they have got the answers. And I kind of just support that process for them, really. So, and then
Mm.
we can think about what next and what's going to change, and
Yes.
how are we going to make things different. But yeah,
Mhm.
so boy, am I
Interesting.
grateful to be here. And
Yes.
that's why I wanted to volunteer, for the IAPCNM, because I wanted to be in a space where I was with a lot of other professional coaches, so I
Hmm.
could build up my skills and my business and do all those things. You're as good as the people in your circle, aren't you? So I wanted to be in the
Yes.
best circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So you trained to become a coach with the lovely Curly Martin, as we said. What then introduced you to accreditation? Because I don't think back in those days I or anybody were giving talks to Curly's students. So you probably only relied on Curly telling you about accreditation.
Yes, that's absolutely right. But
Mm.
she got connections with you guys anyway. So
Yes, she
it
had.
was a,
Yeah.
it was a it was I'm going to say an easy route. I don't mean easy in the sense of we didn't
Mm.
have to meet the criteria, but there was a
Mhm.
mapped out path. That's what I mean to say. There was
Yes.
a mapped out path, which when you're
Yeah.
taking on board all the new coaching skills, you're trying to do what you do, it was a nice, accessible
Mhm.
way to learn
Yeah.
about it and
Yeah.
pursue it. Yeah.
Yeah. We always make sure that the students who come through what we call the ATPCR, just runs off the tongue, doesn't it? The accredited training provider
Does for you.
coach route has a faster track, reduced fee option to their personal
Yeah.
accreditation because
Mm.
they did their due diligence and they picked a course that was already accredited. So
Mm.
we don't have to do so much work with them because we know the quality of the training that they've been on.
Yeah.
So that's why there's the fee differentiator
Mm.
between them and the portfolio route, where the portfolio route is a catch-all. It could be somebody who's come from the forces or the NHS who has
Mm.
coached for years but never been on a formal course and have only had one client, which was the forces or the NHS or some
Yeah.
corporate company. So they don't have testimonials and so on. And that's why we interview
Yeah.
so that we can address all of those issues because we're the only accreditation body approved by the British Industry Ombudsman and we could get audited at any time. So we need to make sure that we've got
Mm.
all our procedures and files and case notes, etc. And so the interview will confirm that this person doesn't have the prerequisite testimonials or whatever because
Mm.
of. So I know there's a lady going through it at the moment. She emailed me today, but I don't have, testimonials because I work in a very highly sensitive position. It's not appropriate to
Right.
ask. That's absolutely fine. That's what the portfolio route is there for, to deal with all the other areas where a lot of flexibility and sensitivity is required.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely. No, it's
Mm,
great because because what you do is capabilities based as well.
mm,
We know that there are other routes to accreditation. Sometimes they're a bit
mm,
more structured, um, which doesn't always allow for the creativity of the different
mm,
coaches. And
mm.
that's one of the things I think is also really valuable about the structure, the path, and the way that you structured the accreditation, offering slightly different
Mhm.
routes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, we hear it all the time. Before 2016, we were the same as the other accreditation bodies. We were competencies based.
Mm.
And you would have situations, Sue, where somebody scored very highly with the thesis, the multiple choice, they'd send in their recordings, and then we would get a complaint about somebody. And it's because they didn't have the people skills to actually
Mm.
hold that space because it was very theory based, which is not great for people like me who have either got some sort of neurodiverse situation or dyslexia. Whereas now we've got, as you say, a capabilities model, which is music to people's ear because
Mm.
it's inclusive, it's
Mm.
humanistic, it's holistic, it's fast and it's accurate.
Mm.
So it just means we've speeded up the whole process, and I think personally, it's the gold standard. It is the best that you can have in terms of determining, can you coach or not?
Yeah.
Can you have a
Mm.
coaching conversation or not? Can you
Yeah.
take your client from A to B? It doesn't matter so much about the theory or what model you're using. We don't
Yeah.
care whether you've created a model out of your name. You know, I'm just
Mm.
trying to think off the top of my head what could be one for Sue. Sue, S. What would that
Yeah.
be? So it could be, what does success look like? The U could be unique, and E, evaluate. Whatever it is, if you say this is my
Absolutely.
model that helps
Yeah.
me get my clients from A to B, we're fine.
Mm.
We're not at all dogmatic or prescriptive in any
No.
shape or form.
No.
And I
Absolutely.
know our members love us for it.
Yeah. Definitely. I remember the lovely Curly Martin saying to me once in her training session, I don't care if what your clients do is stand on their head in the corner and eat a banana if it helps them to achieve their goals. that
Yeah,
that image stayed with me. Now maybe that's not quite where I've gone with my coaching business, but you know, it's
yeah,
in line with what you guys do, what we do at the IAPCNM, which is
Yes.
embrace what makes every single coach unique, but
Yeah.
making sure that the clients are still safe, they're reassured,
Mm.
that they're going to be in a safe coaching environment and get you know, as much as
Mm.
anybody can ever guarantee, get the results that they're
Yeah.
looking for. Yeah.
So, in what way has being accredited, if at all, helped you in your business? Because we know it's unregulated, and we know a lot of coaches say, I don't need it. I don't need to be insured. I do it all
Mm.
organically. I get recommendations. I don't need anything. Is there empirical evidence out there that says it works? So, what has it done for you in your business, if anything, Sue?
I Good question, a really good question. Now I think there's the internal shift that it's given me.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
in the early days, I would honestly say that, which is quite funny thinking I'm a confidence coach, but I lacked confidence. So I knew that
Yeah.
I wanted to do things that were going to help me be able to stand up and be seen, be visible, and be counted with professional coaches.
Hmm.
And for me, that was what the accreditation enabled me to do. You know,
Yeah.
so it helped my confidence. It helped me to be more visible. Of course, what
Mm.
one then has to guard against is, well, I could also do this and I could do this certification. And, you can jump onto the sort of the qualifications, certifications, other accreditation things. So that was
Mm.
something I guarded against. This was the one I wanted. This was the one that was going to give me that confidence. But every single time I'm in a new client, clarity call or discovery call, um, I always ask them, you know, do they know about accreditation? Do
Okay.
they know if they're talking to any other coaches? And I encourage them to do that. Do you
Mm.
know what to ask? Do you know what to look for? And
Mm.
so many of them have no idea at all.
Mm.
So I'm actually ahead of the game when I can say to them, well, here's what you need to know. And I am accredited. These are
Yes.
people, you can check them out. I've got my little thingy on the background there. So
Yeah.
it really, I think it just helps me to win clients, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Well,
Well, that's
you
good
know,
to hear because you're absolutely right. The public make the assumption, I think,
mm,
they don't know, it's true, but I think they just assume that everybody they're dealing
yeah,
with is accredited because they know therapists are accredited.
yes,
They know
yeah,
lawyers, driving instructors, so many professions have to
mm,
belong to a national register. I think
yeah,
they just assume it's the same for coaching. And
yeah, I
it's
think so.
staggering. I remember Adele when she was head of professional services for us. She got a new legal client. He was well, his mouth just dropped. He could not believe
Yeah,
uh, that it's not mandatory and she didn't have to be accredited. She was, but he just took it for
mm,
granted. So he said,
yeah,
I could be
yeah,
working with a coach or a team of coaches in our legal profession and they're not accredited. So what happens if there's a problem?
yeah, yeah,
And we have the same in schools. Quite often, we'll get school coaches coming to us to say something's happened at work. We need to quickly go through our accreditation because we're all being asked for our professional evidence portfolio. So I need, can you turn it around? I need to be
right.
accredited within the next 10 days. We hear that. Um,
Wow,
and now
wow,
I'm hearing
staggering.
from a corporate point of view, you have to tick the box. I am personally accredited, not I'm a member of an accreditation body, but I'm actually accredited myself
Mm,
to get past the through to the next stage in corporate work. But there is a massive lack of
yeah,
what's the word? Not knowing.
yeah,
Um,
a lack of awareness.
yeah,
It,
a good
it's a
one.
thing.
Awareness.
Yeah,
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 which is
yeah,
why we have problems because there's
mm,
no management and procedure or structure for managing expectations. Luckily, we're not anywhere near as bad as what's going on in the States. I mean, when I speak to our US members, it's like there's a case
right.
every week on television of somebody being sued for something.
Mm.
We don't seem to have that. So we're obviously doing a good job of self-regulating.
Yes, yes, absolutely. and long may that continue. You know, we have a lot of traits come over from the US, much as I've got lots of
Yes.
lovely American friends, but some
Yeah.
of them we really would rather not
Mm,
embraced, you know. So
I
yeah,
know.
I think anybody who's watching this, who is going through their training, or you know, who's building up a business, please, please, please get some accreditation. You'll have
Mm,
the right procedures, you'll have the right, all the GDPR stuff, everything that you need to be doing to be
yeah.
bulletproof in a world that is
Yeah.
more inclined to pick up on anything. And we're not the Americans, and we're not as bad, but we can get round to the suing idea pretty quickly. You
Mhm.
know, so yes,
Yeah.
please, please do get your accreditation. But it's not just that; it is also because you'll be a better coach.
Yeah, because as you say, it's a massive boost to your confidence that actually
Mm,
I do know what I'm doing. I am on the right path. I
yeah,
can make a difference.
yeah.
Um, just going back to what you were saying about for the students and the graduates, I often hear people say, "Oh, I wish I'd done this years ago. I don't know why I kept putting it off and putting it off." Well, of course, we put it off because it's voluntary, and we put it off because we don't want to be assessed. I think that's
No.
understandable, which is why we don't do role plays. You know, they're live calls so that you're in the moment as quickly as possible doing what you do, which is coaching.
Mm,
And that is what is being assessed. Um,
mm,
so
mm,
my top tips, I would say, is get properly trained as you did with Curly Martin or somebody else who's been accredited. Being accredited, I think, kind of reminds me of Investors in People. It's like that gold stamp. There
mm.
is a philosophy, oh, it's just another certificate. Does it really matter? But it does give you some protection.
Yeah,
So get
yeah.
properly trained, ideally with a coach training provider who has been independently assessed. We talked the other day on a masterclass about what makes a number one bestseller. And we were told it's got nothing to do with the popularity and the sales. It's got everything to do with how the marketing is engineered. So
Mm,
if you have an independent assessment of the course that you're taking, and then at the end of it, we're independently assessed ourselves, that gives you the credibility and the kudos. You know, faint praise is no praise, is what we say in the
mm.
UK, isn't it? So you
Yes,
can
yeah.
self-assess,
Mm.
self-accredit, but that doesn't mean anything. So
No.
be properly trained, get qualified and certified. Be wary about a training provider who's also going to accredit you because
Mm.
you can't self-accredit. Make sure if your country offers insurance, you're insured.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, have a contract. Everything starts with contracting.
Mm,
And
mm,
certainly we've got some sample contracts for you to create your own if you need one. Lots of people come to us, Sue, and they don't have a contract because it's all just a
mm.
conversation. So it's fine
Yes.
as long as there are no problems. But we, as part of our
Mm,
accreditation, to be entered on the directory, everybody has to have ticked certain boxes. You are insured if your country offers it,
mm,
you've got a contract, etc. And if you don't, we'll give you one. So um, then the next one is become independently accredited. And then my fifth one, which I'm always talking to new practitioners about, is write your book like Sue has.
oh,
It
right. Yeah.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
how small it
Mm,
is. Um,
mm,
it's part of your legacy. It's a lead magnet, as you said.
yeah.
It's a competition. It's a giveaway. It's a thank you. It's
Mm,
something that will shine a light on who you are, what you do, and how you do it differently to other confidence coaches or anybody else in your niche.
mm,
But
yeah.
it means that, you know, journalists can quote you. You're more easy to
Yeah.
identify
Yeah.
and find as the right coach. So
Mm,
what will
mm.
people find in your book, Sue? What are the main topics?
It's around ditching the guilt, because everything, as we were talking about earlier, it's
Yeah.
really basically what I hope people get from it is realizing that when they get to this midlife stage, they see
Mm.
the gift in it,
Okay.
which sometimes takes a while to work through. It
Yeah.
certainly did for me, but looking back now, I can see it was an absolute gift. You know, the whole menopause thing, the stress at work, all came crashing down.
Yes.
but I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it hadn't. So
Yeah.
it's a case of, look, let's deal with the stress. So where do we start? We start with thinking, okay, let's get rid of some of the sort of the 10 out of 10 I can't cope symptoms, like stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm. Let's just get you feeling a little bit better. Let's ditch the guilt, and then let's look ahead, and then just following some steps.
Mhm.
Everybody's got their own idea actually when they come to it of what their life needs to look like, and that's great. Let's do it now, because if you leave it,
Mm,
it won't
mm,
happen. So
mm.
it's encouragement. It's practical, because I do like a structure, and I'm a very practical person. Look, this is probably how you're feeling, or some combination. Let's look at this, share some techniques, and then let's look at how do we figure out what we want. Whether it's
Yes.
a more satisfying career, a change of career, maybe it's life changes, moving 200 miles across the country somewhere else, or
Mm,
living abroad like you do. Who knows?
mm.
But yeah, I had one client who went through this process with me coaching, and discovered that what she really wanted to do was to write comedy and to act.
Wow.
She about 52, I think, at the time. So she scaled down her business a little bit so that she had some time to take some
Yeah.
classes and do all these things. And yeah, and she was so funny. It's really hard when you're in a coaching session. You don't want to laugh when people are expressing something,
Yeah.
if it's not meant to be funny. But the
Yeah.
way she expressed it was just amazing. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what she's gone off to do. So you never know what's going to
Okay.
happen as well.
You don't. You don't. And where does AI, it's not
Mm.
exactly the hot topic because it's been the hot topic for a good couple of years,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still one that I think people are burying their head in the sand about. And I know that you like technology and you like
Mm.
researching and reading this subject. So what's your take on AI in the coaching world, I wonder, Sue?
Um, I choose I choose not to see it as a threat.
Hmm.
I may be proved wrong in the future, who knows? But I I call Chat GPT Kevin. So he's my glamorous assistant.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've given him a name. Yeah, okay.
So Kevin helps me enormously if I want to research stuff. I do the writing for you guys. I write for myself as well. Sometimes I'm researching something for a client. I need to find out more about their world, or I want
Mm,
to, things like that. So I think Chat GPT AI has a place. It can present us with knowledge, with the usual claim, which is don't trust everything it tells you.
mm.
But it can
As we
save you
know,
a lot of
with
time.
the news, I think Chat GPT, I think it's them that are
Mm.
in the news with the second person who's committed suicide because of
Oh,
the relate. He thought he'd built up a relationship, and he was a grown man
yes,
um,
yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah,
States. It
yeah,
was one of those
absolutely.
chat
Yeah, yeah.
platforms. I don't know how many there are. I'm the opposite to you, Sue. I'm not exactly burying my head in the sand, but I'm not interested.
Mm.
But I'm not interested and have never been interested in any technology. I didn't get a grown-up phone. I had a little Nokia flip phone until about 5 years ago. So I've now
Right.
got a grown-up smartphone that can do all this amazing stuff. It's just never been on my
Yeah,
radar.
yeah.
Am I being delusional in not embracing it?
I don't think you are, because I think there are enough people out there who who will connect with you as a coach because of your values.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
um, whether you'll miss a trick, who knows? I mean, I don't know enough about, I don't know anything particularly much about your clients, where you
Mm.
get your clients from, and all that sort of thing. So I would, if we were coaching right now, I'd probably ask you to sort of give me some thoughts on why you think you won't miss out by not embracing AI, because everybody's
Mm.
got their own story. So I
Mm.
use it in ways that help me. I don't use it in any way to replace my own coaching intelligence. But if I can
Mm,
learn a bit more about something, if I can
mm,
write something and then ask Kevin to proofread it for me, just in terms of anglicized grammar and spelling, make some
yes.
suggestions.
Yeah.
Kevin's also helped me with some SEO stuff on my website. It means
Yeah.
I don't have to know everything.
Yes.
Some of that basic stuff like SEO,
Yeah.
all that sort of thing, finding bits of research I can read on a topic. Oh, it's
Mm,
great. I love it. But I did go to answer your question. The one thing that did strike me when I went to an AI thing quite a few months back, a masterclass from somebody who's really into it, really knows their stuff. And what he said, which I can't remember his name, unfortunately, which I'm sorry about, but he it was really interesting. He said that according to the research that he shared, AI can coach people at very adequately at the level of a newly qualified coach.
mhm.
And because it's technology, potentially
Yeah.
it will be that companies will be large corporate companies will be able to roll out AI coaching to
Mhm,
help their employees with
mhm,
basic things to help them work better, all
mhm,
that sort of thing, operate better, be happier at work, more contented maybe at work. Um,
mhm,
it will make coaching available to people that maybe wouldn't have got it otherwise because it's
mhm.
typically reserved for the high flyers.
Mm.
And I thought that was an interesting
Yes,
thing to consider.
it is. And I guess that leads me to a conversation that I had with some of our American members
Mm,
who are feeling quite angry, quite frightened
right,
that their careers as coaches are in jeopardy. I've spoken to one
right,
training provider who said they are taking less students in America because they feel that this has got
right.
a short lifespan because AI will take over. Um, so I think in America, talking to that side of the pond, people seem to be much more switched on and have much stronger feelings than we do
Mm,
on this
mm,
side of the pond.
interesting.
Um, and yes, it's good to say that AI, although it doesn't have the intuition or the emotion at the moment to be able to deal with more complex issues,
Yeah.
that's taking exactly the roles that the Americans were talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, that accounts probably for a lot of coaches around the
Mm,
world who would be doing basic to intermediate corporate
yes.
coaching work on performance, on communications, on
Yeah.
motivation, not the
Mm,
CEO end, obviously.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's two
Yes.
there's two sides of the coin every time, isn't there?
Absolutely, yes, there is. But the other thing that came up in that same masterclass was, and again, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but the host was saying that the one thing that AI can't do is anything sort of kind of with group coaching, basically team coaching, group coaching. AI just
Ah,
can't do that. It can't
right.
register. It can't register
Who's different?
a room full of people, basically.
Ah, okay. That's interesting.
So maybe we need, as humans, we need to be thinking a little bit more creatively.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
and I don't have any answers, but what is it we can do that AI can do? And funnily enough, we were asked, and I think this is interesting, what's the one thing you think that AI can't offer as a coach? If it was coaching, what can't it offer? We all pretty much said empathy.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the answer. A lot of
Right.
people feel empathy when they are, you know, being coached by AI. They've done the research and done the follow
Really?
up. Yeah. The thing that AI cannot do is humor.
Okay. Right.
So, maybe there's a niche there somewhere, you know. What? One of my best coaching breakthroughs came through. I was working with a lady. To cut a long story short, she'd been procrastinating about doing certain things in her house. So I said to her, we'll call her Fiona. I said, Fiona, if I asked you now to get up from your chair, go to that cupboard under the stairs, just take we talked about what was in the cupboard, take out, put it in the bag, go put it by the front door. Would you do that? And she went, no, because I haven't got any trousers on. And that was the breakthrough. From that
Yeah,
moment on, she never looked back.
yeah.
It just works. So maybe there's something to do with humor.
Yeah, I mean, when you asked that question, what is the one thing they can't do? And you said empathy. In my mind, I was thinking rapport.
Mm.
So maybe,
Mm.
I mean, rapport is linked to humor, it's linked to intuition, it's linked to trust, etc. Maybe that also speaks to um, the difference between the competencies and the capabilities model. Because the competencies model, you could get 100% about
Mm.
the theory of coaching. But when it comes to coaching and holding space and building rapport and having some banter and being human, they can't necessarily do it. So maybe AI is a threat to people who are very competencies based as opposed
Mm.
to capabilities based.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know.
Gosh,
Time
there's
will
a thought.
tell.
Yes, it
Yeah.
will, won't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, I like that.
Interesting.
Mm.
Okay. Something
I
to
mean,
think about.
AI's only ever as good as it's being programmed to be. And obviously, I
Hmm.
guess it learns a little as it goes along.
Hmm.
But yes, but its intuition is an interesting one, isn't it?
Hmm.
How a machine can't have intuition. It can only think back to all the different options and pathways
Hmm.
and respond according to that. And sometimes intuition tells you something that, as a coach, it does me. I don't know about you, Dawn, but it tells you something that isn't logical. You
Yes.
trust it in the moment because you've learned to trust.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I've kept an eye on the phone, and Rowena hasn't sent me any questions, so
Okay.
nobody's asked us anything directly. But sometimes the question comes afterwards, and we have to follow it up the next month if we remember, or by
Yeah.
email. So what I'd say is to anybody listening out there who's interested in accreditation, training as a coach, or AI, we have an AI speaker at the International Coaching Week. 11th to the 15th of May. I'm pretty sure she is talking on the 13th or 14th. So it is a subject that we're increasingly raising. Let me just have a look. Rowena's just messaged me. Um, no, that's fine. Um, so if people want to find out more, where would they go, Sue, other than your directory profile? What are your own um, social media platforms?
Okay, so I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn. And if you look for Confidence First Coaching and Confidence First Coaching, all words, letters, I
Okay.
should say, all words and letters.com is my website. So
Okay.
one way or another, I'm sure you'll find me.
Yeah. And what do they have to do to get their hands on your ebook?
You can go to my website and there's an offers page and you can download the ebook there.
Brilliant. Okay.
So,
Well, thank you everybody who's had a cup of coffee or virtual cup of coffee with us. And I will see you same time, same day next week with another guest that you can enjoy a conversation with. And please do ask your questions. If you can think of a question later or you're a little bit shy and thought, oh, I wish I'd asked that, just pop it in the chat box. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think it's Instagram. Not sure, but you'll find us, and I'll make sure any questions get to Sue. And if you're lacking a little bit in confidence, if you're feeling burnt out, as a lot of women do in their 40s and 50s, Sue is the coach for you. Okay.
thanks.